Daniel, I suppose the silver lining is they've got a better goal difference than Leeds, but they really have to beat West Ham and hope results go their way. What mood did you find Dean Smith in? Did you get a sense he was feeling the pressure?
Yeah, I have to say it was a very chilled out Dean Smith. I have to say at his news conference. It was slightly reflective as well. He was asked quite a few times on how he reflects on his 7-game period so far. He's obviously brought in for 8 games towards the end of this season, and I think he kind of reflected on the good and the bad. He knew that there were tough games during this run against Manchester City, Liverpool away, and Newcastle, as we saw in the Monday Night Football. But he also regretted perhaps not getting points against the teams that they find themselves against this weekend. They drew against Everton at the King Power just a few weeks ago. They could have won that game potentially if they could have gone 3-1 up, but they missed a penalty. Everton came back and got a draw, and they drew to Leeds the weekend before that. So I think, it was a ponderous Dean Smith, and as I mentioned, chilled out in terms of, he's been in these situations before at Walsall and at Aston Villa just a few years ago, and I think for him it's quite simple. Of course, they need Everton to not win against Bournemouth, as we heard there from Vinny, but I think in his mind, they just have to win against West Ham and then see what happens next. This is what he had to say looking ahead to that game.
For us, it's just about going from the first minute, try and win the game. Can you go and create, scoreboard pressure on other teams? I don't know. But we've just got to concentrate on what we do at the King Power with our fans behind us and go and get the win. The players want clarity of, what their positions are, what we're asking of them, with and without the ball, and our job is to give them that clarity, and it doesn't get any clearer for me. We have to win, and that's all they need to know, and that's all they do know as well.
Yeah, the job description's clear, isn't it, Daniel? Some mixed injury news though for Dean Smith. What can you tell us?
Yeah, there was some good news and maybe some not so good news in terms of the team news. Let's start with the good. Johnny Evans, he came off against Newcastle with cramp. He's okay. He's ready to go. And a few others, Ricardo Pereira, Kelechi Iheanacho, they're also fine for West Ham. And just finally, Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall, he's missed the last few games, but he's back in training this week. In terms of the not so good news, Kaglar Soyuncu, who really didn't feature under Brendan Rodgers this season, but really had for Dean Smith, making quite a few appearances. He's been suffering with a thigh injury the last few games. He's been ruled out for West Ham. Unfortunately, he tried to get back into training this week, but just won't make it. There's a big injury worry around Wilfred Ndidi as well. He picked up a hamstring injury on the Monday Night Football against Newcastle. He's not trained so far this week, but Dean Smith held out a bit of hope that he might be able to make it. But as we heard a bit earlier, Dean Smith has been in these situations before when he was at Walsall and when he was at Aston Villa just a few years ago, and it was actually against West Ham on that final day where they got a draw. They leaped over Watford on the final day to get over the line and stay in the Premier League that season. So we asked him, well, where would keeping Leicester up in the Premier League this season rank in his achievements?
Incredible pride, coming in so late in the season with Shaky and JT. I think we've changed the mood in the camp. It was when we came in, I felt a little bit of belief had gone. I think we've got that back, but I also knew, some of the games were going to be really tough. The Liverpool, the Newcastle, the Man Cities, they were going to be tough, and we had to try and get points elsewhere.
Yeah, I mean, Leicester do have all to do, don't they? But it's really crazy when you think it was only 7 years ago that they won the Premier League title, one of the most incredible feats of recent footballing history, of course. And it was just a few years ago they won the FA Cup. That was an unlikely feat. So I guess the question is, can Leicester spring one more surprise on the rest of the Premier League this weekend? We'll wait and find out. Very excited.
Very exciting indeed. Thank you, Daniel Kahn at Leicester.